Oh fuck! All right. Hold the phone. Hold on 2 seconds. Oh, that was dumb. Sorry about that. I was making a coffee. Didn't have my speakers turned up. Welcome, everybody. Welcome, one and all. My name is Lewi, and it is good to be back. How's that color balance? How's this camera? Jesus. Professional stream, I know. Hang on. There we are. Better. What's up, everybody? As I've said, my name is Lewi. I'm an Australian streamer. I've been out of the game for about a week and a half. I've had to take some time off, just to allow myself to relax a little bit, to breathe, to not worry. Had a lot of personal stuff going on, but hey, I'm back now, and I am ready to go, alright? I might turn that light down just a little bit, because it is a little bit white. How's that? That's better. We don't like being too white here on this stream, let me tell you. So, first of all, let me acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which I'm coming to you live from, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation. I'd like to pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. Welcome in the Indigenous people joining us today. So, like I said, I've been out of the game for about a week and a half, maybe even a little longer, to be honest. And the thing is, nothing to do with streaming, just streaming became too much. But at university, some other stuff adding up, I've been a little bit, well, more than a little bit worried about money lately. Because, hey, I haven't worked in about 2 months now, thanks to our old friend, COVID-19. Just, keeps us locked down. Fucking Queensland. Not Queensland. Queensland's actually been alright. Sydney, I should say. Sydney, New South Wales, and Gladstone, ruining things for the rest of Australia, or at least for Victoria. Because New South Wales is dragging its heels with a COVID response, or about outbreak to their COVID response. It's affecting Victoria. Which means, despite Victoria doing fine COVID-wise, they're bringing their cases here. Now, some of them, I assume, are good people. But look, I just don't want them in any positions of power. Now, so hey, you can help fix that. Hint, hint. Nudge, nudge. Oh, sorry. If I don't add anything to things. Look, I've just woken up, alright? Here's the thing. If this is your first time watching the stream, I'm an Australian streamer. However, I like to talk about things that happen around the world, but mainly in America. That's why I'm streaming at this time. It's just past 7, my time. Because, so, as an Australian, though I understand that it's not so much of a audience, not so much of a market for Australian streamers. So, I get up this early to stream for the Americans, because, hey, that's where the audience is. Like, first rule of business is you go where the money is. Give me 2 seconds to turn my computer audio up. Hold on a sec. Oh. Why didn't I hear this then? Okay, now I can hear it. Anyway. So yeah. I'm an Australian streamer. I like to talk about things like workers' rights, minority rights, in particular trans and indigenous rights. I like to talk about masculinity a lot. That's a hot button topic. Really interested in finding a healthy masculinity here in 2021. Let's see if we can do it. So, I've been out of the game for a while. Too long. I do love streaming, but, when you've got a lot adding up, just one more thing can, makes it a little bit harder. And just, not having the motivation. There's been a lot of drama at my university, around the student council, which I've been involved in. I've actually had to quit at the start of last week Just because, you know, I was done with it. I was done with all the drama. Which is a damn shame, because even though I quit, I genuinely care about student advocacy, but I have to put my health first. Japan recalled all the fun vaccines. Magneto hype. Which one are the fun vaccines? Hey, they're all fun. Speaking of which, you should get vaccinated. I've already had my first shot. Don't know what to do with my vaccine card. But anyway, go get it. Go get it right now. If you're in America, it's fucking free from your pharmacy. If you're in Australia, well then you have to book in your appointment and maybe wait a little bit. But just go get it. Fuck me. I was arguing with this dickhead on Twitter the other day, trying to tell him that, hey, vaccines, I mean, the libertarian perspective is to get vaccinated. I lose 40% less paper clips. Fuck no, well then you're an asshole. And if you call yourself a libertarian, you're not. Anywho. So, we're going to talk a little bit about an Australian YouTuber by the name of Friendly Geordies. So, we talked about Friendly Geordies on the channel before. Friendly Geordies is an Australian YouTuber who makes a mix of political and meme content. At the moment, for the last few months, he's being sued by the Deputy Premier of New South Wales. So basically the Deputy Governor, as you would say in America. He's been sued basically because two reasons. Number one, he's made videos making fun of the Deputy Premier, John Barilaro. I didn't realise that it was illegal to poke fun at politicians. Funny how none of the journalists who ever write slanderous articles or the political cartoonists who depict them in unflattering ways, ever get sued. But yeah, funny how it's a YouTuber that gets sued. And the other reason is that Friendly Geordies has exposed... How can I put this? There's alleged allegations of corruption, which Friendly Geordies has provided evidence for. Alleged, I say, you know, in heavy quotations. If we were in Roblox, I might say that they were true, but hey, specifically in Roblox. So yeah. Now, this is really... The lawsuit against Friendly Geordies hasn't seen widespread condemnation. I think it's pretty disgusting. I think it's an attack on our freedom of speech, an attack of our freedom of press. So yeah, there has been some other YouTubers who have talked about this very publicly. Covered that on the channel. Vosh was one of them. Isaac Butterfield, some Australian YouTubers, Lewis Spears. So yeah. Huh. Well, that's interesting about Moderna. I'm young, fit, healthy. Be safe, be educated. Love your mustache. Well, I don't love your anti-vaccine stance. That's pretty cringe, my friend. Doesn't matter if you're young, fit, and healthy. Hey, guess what? If you catch COVID and end up with a long-term side effect, you won't be young, fit, and healthy. I mean, you'll be young, but you might find walking upstairs difficult. You might walk into a room and forget why you were there. Anyway. So, this is a video that John put out a while back, but I wanted to cover it. I haven't got around to it yet. So anyway, let's get to it.
You know, there's a tidbit that I think kind of got overshadowed by the whole secret police nearly killing an elderly family pet thing. And that's the part where Bruz claimed he wanted to sue Google. Clearly a much more innocent bystander in all this than Christo's mum, clearly. They're claiming that Google is a publisher and therefore is responsible for my content. At first I thought, this fat's obsessed with furniture. What, because Freedom Furniture doesn't stock office beanbags, you need to sue Google, do you? Their couches aren't slendy enough for the hefty gentlemen's. You remember the news media bargaining code fiasco? If you don't, Michael West has done an excellent article on it, as has Economics Explained. I did the best one in my humble opinion. You know why? Because I was in it. Isn't that incredible how the human brain works?
This one that has me really speaks to me.
To give you a very crude overview of the media bargaining code, it was essentially Murdoch and Costello whining that for some reason, less and less of the public want to pay them for their boring propaganda, colourlessly written by some pee-pee-loving douche with this facial expression. The pee-pees made my pee-pee hard. Clearly, their revenue
I wonder why nobody's interested in old media anymore.
plummeting from a medium that is 1,000 years old, competing in the era of TikTok, obviously Google's fault, and so they want Google to pay for daring to allow them to use Google's search engine. Honestly, they may as well have turned to Sydney Water and said, "You have to pay me for flicking up one of your bubblers."
Ah! Fuck me. Damn it, Jordan. Does Google produce... What? I was reading that wrong. Well, does Google produce profit off the content, and does it curate it? Google doesn't really exactly produce profit off content that's hosted on their website. They produce profit more from ads, like Facebook. Any website doesn't pay Google to, come up in a search engine. Or maybe they can. Maybe you can pay Google to, so your website, comes to the top of the search response. Like a newspaper. Oh, isn't like how a newspaper pays journalists to write articles for them. No, because that's Google's just a distributor, really. That's the success of the website. That's the appeal. It brings all these websites together, all these results, depending on what someone's searching for. So it's very different to a newspaper. And again, just silly why the Deputy Premier is wasting his time suing one of the most powerful companies in the world, at least tech-wise.
One of your bubblers. That was my labour that allowed me to have some of your free water. Naturally, the party of free market principles had to step in with classic central command economics by forcing Google to pay for papers that are clearly failing due to free market principles as what's more of a proud liberal tradition than wealth redistribution. And at the time, we thought, well, this is just your run-of-the-mill example of Murdoch's power. The man could make one tweet and get f***ing Fiji nuked if he liked. Today is a slow news day. Cheerio, chaps! Let's give him something to talk about, what? I thought, because of the amount of money...
Again, just further proof that the Liberal Party of Australia is not an actual Liberal Party, they're conservative. But just further proof that conservatives aren't pro-free market. So in newspapers, not publishers. I mean, what's the distinction? Google's not a... How is Google a publisher? Google has its own Google News, but that's different. Google's just a search engine. If you were to go to an archive and look up archived physical newspapers, could you sue that archive? It's the same thing. It's just virtual instead.
Google and Facebook have to pay is looking like some token amount of $100 to $200 million. That this was all just the Liberals saving Murdoch's face. But who'd have guessed? Peter Dutton is actually smarter than I am. In fact, now that I think about it, I think there might be only one person on Earth who's smarter than him, Abby Chatfield, but that's another story. I think the puppets of Murdoch have taken on a life of their own. Puppets would have been a much more apt description of the Liberals if Chris Pine was still an MP, because he's just slappy with curly hair.
How is it different? Google can take down and curate. I mean, I just don't see Google as that kind of business. Google is just a company that hosts websites. Google does own YouTube, and Friendly Jordies is a YouTuber. So, I mean, that feels like a very arbitrary line. You could sue them for hosting any website. Yeah, it really doesn't make any sense. It's the same thing. Flip it around to a newspaper. Sure, suing a journalist that writes an article, but suing the newspaper? But, that's different, because the newspaper publishes the article. It feels like It feels like a completely different model, because the newspaper makes the choice to actually publish the article, but Google is really just a search engine. It's a different model to a newspaper. Like, a newspaper's created, Google's just, you know, you can find stuff in the search engine, or host websites like YouTube. It really doesn't feel analogous.
I'm a fixer. My first inkling that the Liberals might actually be smarter than me is that some of them understand the law-making process. I, on the other hand, dropped out of legal studies in year 10 because I thought it was, quote, for shit.
Fucking hell, another ad already? Google publishes the news. It's not the model, it's the principle. I don't know, I don't see the parallel there. Like, I just really don't see it as comparable. Newspapers are a curated piece of media. Google is just a distributor. I just don't see the... What is analogous, though, is the treatment of content creators. Like, I would defend a journalist's right to freedom of speech and freedom of press just as much as I'm defending Jordan's right just now. Like, I really don't see it as analogous as Google to a newspaper. Sheba, that's gross. Keep it in your pants. Literally. Google is curated. I mean, sure, but we're talking about a YouTuber being sued by a politician, alright? We're not talking about a journalist in a newspaper article, who published a newspaper article. Google, like, as long as Friendly Geordies adheres to the terms and service of Google and YouTube, then, like, YouTube has no, YouTube and Google by extension has no say in what gets published. They're not culpable for what he says. He could, you know, ride the line of what you can get banned for on YouTube, but as long as he doesn't cross that line, as long as he doesn't break the terms of service, then they have no business in sticking their nose in what he puts on his channel. That's why every country needs something like a First Amendment. Absolutely. Did you know that freedom of speech is not actually mentioned, I think? It's definitely not protected in the Australian Constitution, but I don't think it's even mentioned, which is a little bit yikes. Remember when a Canadian YouTuber was denounced by the Parliament of Quebec? Really? Who was that and what did they do? Was it worth denunciation? Fucking boomers trying to act cool.
Dropped out of legal studies in year 10 because I thought it was, quote, for shit. I've just learnt the word precedent in the last few weeks for inexplicable reasons, and it's changed my entire worldview. You ready for these red pills? Number one, Joey from Friends has a much more diverse character range than Christian Bale. Number two, the media bargaining code was never about propping up dying newspapers. It was about silencing the new ones. The primary objective was to start associating in both the court and the court of public opinion that Google and Facebook aren't platforms, they're publishers. You know, like the Sydney Morning Herald's a publisher. Now, intuitively, that's f***ing nuts. Google is the modern-day equivalent of a library, while the Sydney Morning Herald is just a modern-day lunatic handing out pamphlets of their personal, cultural and political beliefs, and for some reason there's a bunch of f***ing Nick Scarley furniture ads in between.
Chips and gravy again? Here we go. He's addressing the point.
Why do they want social media to be a publisher and not a platform? Because publishers have editors. Why do they want them to have editors? Because editors will start treating you, a member of the public, like a journalist, i.e. stop you from saying things. Who are they trying to make the editor? Themselves. Ever heard of the online safety bill? Probably not, as there was barely any coverage of it, and apart from one dumb shit ABC article where they said, "Yay! No one can troll me on Twitter anymore, because it's not that I'm dumb, it's that everyone else is a troll."
Fucking hell. An ad every 5 seconds. But yes, I'm glad that he's addressed the point. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Google is just a distributor. It's not a publisher. If it is a publisher, then as Jordan says, it needs an editor. And who's putting up their hand to be that editor? Guess what? It's the Australian government. Sounds like an attack on our freedom of press. He names J.J. McCulloch? He got denounced for being against a law that forces Canadian politicians to speak French. What the fuck? A law that forces Canadian politicians to speak French. Why would there be such a law? And why would you be against that? I mean, why wouldn't you be against that? Like, if you're going to be a Canadian... This isn't a Canadian accent, obviously, but if you're going to be a Canadian politician, then you must speak French. That's weird. Imagine, like... That's literally just like... Like, what's the shit that racists say? Like, oh, I just think if they come to this country, they should speak the language. Like, hello, politicians, that's an attack on freedom of speech. You look way more gay than the last time I saw you streaming. Thanks! I'm glad that I have achieved a new level of gay. Poggers. Well, in New Zealand, they're trying to bring in Maori-only law. I believe that there is... I've looked at it very briefly a while back, that there is, like... Not exactly like a Maori law court, but there... is something approximating some kind of Maori law court. I honestly don't know how I feel about different systems of justice rather than a unified one. I would need to look way more into the topic itself before I can form an opinion. I'm sorry, but I just haven't looked into it enough. I'm not informed enough on the topic. Well, do you feel more gay, or are you just happy that you look more gay? I certainly don't feel more gay, but I'm glad that I look more gay, alright? I'm glad that that's the aesthetic I'm bringing. He does look a bit... Bring your daughter to the slaughter. I'm sorry, I don't get the reference. Just got my 15th booster shot. Wow. God damn, I haven't got my second shot. And you're already on 15. Jesus. Being gay is gross and abnormal, my friend. Congratulations for volunteering to be our one average ban per stream. Ba-dow. Idiot. Cuck! Let's get back to it.
Not that I'm dumb, it's that everyone else is a troll. Labour and the Greens slammed it. Lewis Spears slammed it. 400 people slammed it, even though you're only given 3 days to make a submission, which, geez, short time frame to hear objections to a bill censoring the net and next to zero mainstream media coverage. No, that's not deep stating at all. In the very little coverage it did get, it was proudly reported that they're going to start fining platforms like Facebook for keeping up, quote, bullying content, $500,000 for each offence. Who's the editor that decides what is and isn't an offence? The E-Safety Commissioner. One woman. Essentially an emperor of the net. And just when she's about to receive her crown, just coincidentally at almost the exact moment, you start seeing instances of pages like the Common Sense Brigade that are being shut down for, and this is true, terrorism. The terrorist act in question was someone daring to make a meme of Mussolini's body with John Barilaro's head. Yep, that's up there with the Christchurch shootings. This is especially scary to me personally, as this person looks like this person is 90% of my jokes. So in one foul swoop, they've silenced freedom of expression and killed Australian comedy. You don't want them killing Australian comedy, do you?
This is oh, for fuck's sake, another ad, really? This is the thing, like... It's so frustrating being an Australian because no one ever talks about Australia, but our government is going so far down an anti-free speech path. Tons of governments are doing that. Like, I know the UK's gone pretty yikesy. But this is the thing, like... It's so frustrating hearing from Conservatives about how they're supposedly the party of the free market, yet the Conservative Party in Australia is behind this attack on companies' autonomy and attacking freedom of speech. Wow, who'd have thought?
Killed Australian comedy. You don't Want them killing Australian comedy, do you? Don't worry, mate, I'm still gonna say that half-shucked mango line. Oh, thank fuck. The Murdoch press, on the other hand, making meme after meme, day after day, of Daniel Andrews looking like Kim Jong-un, that's not terrorism. It's only terrorism if you do it to a member of the coalition. Do you see what's happening here? By taking down the Common Sense Brigade, they've essentially declared that supporting the party of opposition is an act of terrorism. Asking a politician in power a question is now an act of terrorism. Making fun of the party in power is an act of terrorism. Now I want you to go back and look at Frydenberg's comments where he stated over and over that the media bargaining code was a precursor and a world first, and the world is watching what happens here in Australia. Not even Coyne admitting that holy f***, Tucker Carlson was wrong on this one. Google aren't Machiavellian schemers like we are. While we're thinking of plots for world domination, they seem to be a bunch of nerds thinking about, oh, they landed another rover on Mars, cool. I can guarantee you that Google wasn't thinking that now that it's being defined as a publisher, they're responsible for not letting through information that is damaging to the coalition, just like the press in this country are. If John Barilaro wins his case against Google, think about this. Google would be legally responsible for everyone's feelings too. Well, everyone's feelings with tens of millions of dollars in public profiles and egos the size of their bank accounts, i.e. these political gangsters, meaning at some point Google and Facebook will have to say, f*** it, we're sick of getting sued for every little personal gripe the coalition has. We're changing our terms and conditions so that they have no personal gripes to begin with. As Frydenberg correctly stated, the world is watching. Do you know what the world is? Sister parties of the Tories. Despots all across the globe looking at Australia as a testing lab, seeing what they can and can't get away with in their collective pursuit to force Google to rein in a version of itself that is closer to China's in the quote-unquote free world, or as Frydenberg himself puts it, to ensure that the rules of the digital world mirror the rules of the physical world.
So yes, basically, if you haven't been following, because, hey, like Australia, I understand, our Conservative Party, who's in power right now, is very keen on cracking down on what you can and cannot say online. Now, despite what Josh Friedenberg just stated, they don't apply the same standards to old media. This is very much an attack on new media, an attack on online media. Our Conservative Party, the Liberal Party, not liberal whatsoever, they're Conservative, are very keen on, well, I mean, they're in the pocket of Rupert Murdoch, who, as you can imagine, has a vested interest in seeing competitors to his media empire kneecapped. So, they're very keen, or, and plus, as, Jordan's laid out very clear, they benefit anyway, because they're being made fun of by people like Jordan, and, he's made other videos exposing their corruption. So, the thing about all of this is that last bit at the end, basically, what you can and can't say online, what you can get away with saying on platforms like Facebook and YouTube, is attempting to be curtailed by the government. They'll do so by implementing new laws against those platforms. And as Jordan was talking about, if you break those rules, then you won't face repercussions, but the platform itself will face repercussions. So if you say something that is against their bargaining code, the media bargaining code, then Facebook gets slapped with a fine or gets sued. And as Jordan said as well, eventually they're going to say, well, we're sick of being fined for what people are saying, you just won't be able to say anything at all. We already saw this earlier this year when the government tested the new media bargaining code by, which is basically, it was different to like what you can say. It was more about like what can be put online on Facebook. So like similar thing, testing the waters. Basically, with the new media bargaining code, Facebook had to pay publishers for using its platform. So the publishers, so Channel 7, etc., any news network, gets the benefit of using Facebook as a platform for distribution, but Facebook has to pay them to use their platform. You see what I mean? So Facebook said, fuck it, we're not going to do that. We don't want to meet that standard. So that's it. All news banned from Facebook. So for a few days until the government reversed it, there was no news whatsoever on Facebook. Any kind of news organization, whether legitimate or satirical, was just banned from Facebook. Because Facebook just said, we're not going to meet this attack on our, I guess, free trading in the free market. So, fuck it. This is a regulation that we're not going to meet. No more news on Facebook. So, while this is not directly an attack on free speech, you see how it's getting there. It's starting us off. Australia is resembling fascism, going socialist. My friend, I wish Australia was going socialist. I think you need to check your definitions, though, as socialism is nothing like fascism. Let me tell you a story about fascism in a moment. I'll just catch up with the chat. To be fair, we're doing better here, but it's dependent on who's in power. I think we'll be okay unless people are wearing those pointless masks. Oh my god. Great, an anti-masker. You're a fuckhead, mate. Masks work. Wear your goddamn mask, even if you're vaccinated. But this isn't true. Sky News Australia constantly mocks the Australian government. Sky News... No, mate. Sky News is backing the Liberal Party 100%. Sky News is a real far-right news network. It's basically like FoS for Australians and the UK. My friend... No, it might be mocking the Labour Party, sure, but not the Liberal Party. Why not deregulate all? Look, like, no, I'm sorry, but businesses need some regulations. Some factory should not be able to just throw toxic waste into a city's water supply. Forgive me for saying that. People are happy. Yo, what's up, boy meets Smitty? I'm wearing my mask like a true Stalinist. Thank you for your service, comrade. Fascism is socialism. No, my friend, I'm afraid that socialism is a system that attempts to give more power to the people, fundamentally defined by two key characteristics: the abolition of the commodity form and the democratic ownership of the means of production. Now, that doesn't sound very authoritarian. It sounds quite the opposite. Fascism, on the other hand, is defined as a highly centralized, highly conservative, highly nationalistic system that involves strong centralized control over the economy, strong centralized control over the military and the police and the secret police, that endeavors to create, protect, and perpetuate hierarchies based on oppression. Those two definitions are completely different. How did you ever mistake them? Come on, lift your game, my friend. So yeah, wear your mask. The libertarian perspective is to wear a mask. USSR fell to authoritarianism, but that doesn't mean socialism doesn't work. The USA is highly authoritarian, but still claims to be democratic. Doesn't mean democracy is bad. I mean, I'm never going to defend the USSR whatsoever. There's never been a communist or a socialist government worldwide. I wouldn't like the USA is a flawed democracy, but it's certainly not a. It has some authoritarian aspects, sure, but doesn't mean that it's still not a democracy. You're complaining about regulations. Why not get rid of those regulations? I'm complaining about regulations that restrict freedom of speech, my friend. It's very different to talking about, like, environmental regulations. Come on. Anyway, here's the story about fascism, right? This is, like, a bit of a yikes story. So, in my politics class the other day... Let me just turn this... Oh, other way. That's better. So, in my politics class the other day... the topic of the week was fascism. So, we're talking about, authoritarianism, whatnot, and, like, key characteristics of fascism. And one person in this class, right? So, I can't remember how it came up, because I was kind of, like, zoning out, but, like, I must have been, like, scrolling Twitter at the same time, because, it's Zoom class. As they were talking, like, they said something that, like, brought me way back into the conversation. They were talking about fascism, and they were talking about like influences on fascists, and they said, quote, and I shit you not, like, don't clip this, they run the banks. And I'm just like, what the fuck? Is that a JQ? Did someone like actually say that unironically in class? Now let me make it clear. They didn't say it in the context of like, fascists are radicalized by conspiracies about how, Jews run the world. No, they weren't saying it like that. They straight up said explicitly, they run the banks. And so, I said, like, I put up my hand or whatever, and I talked about something, about some other topic that someone was saying, and then I added, like, and I just want to ask Ash, who is the student's name, like, who's they? And then this student, Ash, she laughs nervously and stammers for like 10 seconds, and eventually responds, if you know, you know. And I'm sitting there in class thinking, like, what the fuck? Like, that's not the kind of response I want after you've just done a JQ. Like, is this for real? And then, like, the topic went on for another minute, but then eventually, like, a minute later, like, I had to bring it back. And I was like, I'm sorry, like, I have to, like, I can't leave this. Are you having a laugh? Are you, like, making a serious JQ? And they just didn't answer. So, yeah. This is like the third time that someone self-reported in my politics class. But not that fucking bad. Like, Nazi conspiracies? Jesus, fuck. So yeah. Oh my goodness, there's just this argument going on that's just completely not related to what I'm talking about, but hey, go for it, guys. If you're enjoying the stream, then hit that follow button, my friends. Let me catch up. Socialism is the state control of individual rights, especially at economic level. No, my friend, I've already defined what socialism is. Socialism is a system that decentralizes the economy. That's authoritarianism, lol. You're missing the entire point. Marx's prescription was to abolish the state through worker ownership of the economy. Socialism is authoritarian. Let me just not engage with your points whatsoever. Yes, the USA is not capitalist. The USA is bot-run on private ownership basis. Oh my god. Chips and gravy again. Are you an ANCAP? If a corporation evicts a neighborhood to build luxury housing plus or more, was that authoritarian? To me it is. This is happening in cities across the US, by the way. I'm not surprised. Listen, like, we can literally just, like... Look, I'll just Google it right now. Socialism definition. The source, I'm pretty sure, will be the Oxford Languages. Yes, definitions from Oxford Languages, a well-reputed source. Socialism, noun. A political and economic theory of social organisation which advocates that the means of production, distribution and exchange should be owned or regulated by the community as a whole. Exactly what is authoritarian about that? You can't tell me, because you can't resist your US nationalistic programming. Oh my god, we have an infrared stan here. Again, with dictionary definitions. It's like you learn nothing after getting dunked on by infrared. My friend, if you think that infrared looked good after walking away from that conversation, mate, you can tell just from his reaction that he wasn't happy. Yes, the stock market is a government-backed mandate. The US, since 1929, has been as a largely socialist country. I wish I lived in the world that conservatives lived. Oh, fuck me, I wish. I wish. Log off and get educated before you continue making a fool of yourself. The stock market is literal capitalism. Chips and gravy again. You are making a fool of yourself. I mean, Mind Eraser, like, listen, when you're an adult, when you've turned 18, then you can come back and tell me what you think. But I'm sorry. I don't take children's opinions seriously. No, I'm a libertarian. You're not a libertarian, mate. I believe you need some laws in some state, but you should largely leave people alone. Gee, you're not even like a right-wing libertarian by that definition. Also, that was not the original definition, is it? It said state ownership. No, it's not, mate. It's not state ownership. Fuck me. What part of owned by the people is hard to understand? Owned by the state? That's not owned by the people. That's pretty gross. I'm not some 17-year-old... No. Boy Meets Mini, I don't mean that you're 17. I mean that Mind Eraser is underage, because they're a tanky, and all tankies are underage. I've been working in corporate world for greater than 8 years, and the way corporations operate truly disgusts me. Hell yeah. Oh, true. Chips and Gravy... Yeah, Chips and Gravy, again, is probably underage, because imagine being an adult and being an ANCAP. Why is it like every incoherent ideology, like Stalinism, like, you know, tankies and ANCAPs and Nazis, they're all underage? What the fuck? Except for that person in my class. So now a stock market equals capitalism. Literally man-child who gets his definition of social... No, I'm not saying that this... Wait, what? Yes, the stock market is capitalism, you fuckhead. Cut your man bun off. What about this looks like a man gun, fool? Clearly it's a ponytail. Like, look at it. I look like a cheerleader. Man bun. I'm sure you wish I was underage, you bread tube pedo. Projection. How is the stock market capitalist when it is regulated by the state? Oof. Okay. Alright, you'll need to chill, okay? Because we're going to move on to another topic, which is going to make Mind Eraser's mind melt. Now, I'm a little bit behind the 8-ball with this one. A little bit slow on the uptake, but... Move topics up to... What was the question, mate? You didn't answer a question. If you have a question, throw it my way. I'm waiting. Come on. You're just going to complain about... No, it's alright, Boy Meets Mini. You're just going to complain about how Infrared lost in that debate. Cope harder, mate. Cope and seethe. Listen, you can tell Infrared. I'm happy to go round 2 every time. But look, I might have to tie one arm behind my back. Because it wouldn't be fair otherwise. Anyway. That guy asked you about the state regarding the stock market and you just ducked it. Oh, okay. I thought he was asking Boy Meets Mini. Because, like, I don't believe in this idea of, like, oh, pure capitalism is a stateless society. Like, I think capitalism can operate both within a state and without a state. Like, I think that, like, you could, like, a capitalistic system could still exist in a stateless, borderless society. However, I don't think that's a necessary requirement for capitalism. And look, I'll make this say, I'll draw this same line with leftism. You can't have a communist society in a state, in one that within a state, because communism is inherently anti-state. But you could theoretically have a socialist nation within a state. That is possible. Socialism isn't inherently anti-state like communism is. What is the difference between public and private and public ownership? Private by private citizens and public by the state. That's how I define it. The state doesn't own the stock market, though. Private capital owners do. I mean, like, who owns the stock market? No one owns, like, the market. It's stocks that are traded by individuals and companies. Nobody cares what you believe, LMAO. Why are you here? What are you here? Boy Meets Mini regulates... Do you think it's fair the CEO makes 400? Okay. You have that argument. This is painful. This streamer knows nothing. Gets all his views from BreadTube. I implore everyone to get an education. Self-educate if you have to. Reading is free via library. Stop listening to this man-child like Louis Vuitton. Just read Marx! Read Marx! Coming from a guy who's clearly never read Marx. Oof. Alright. You can, look, Boy Meets Mini and Chips and Gravy again. You guys can have your argument, okay? I'm moving on to something else. Taliban takes over Afghanistan. What we know and what's next. Oh, would you look at that? Listen, I'm not a fan of forever war. However, what I did say way back when Australia was starting to pull out was, from everything that I've seen online, well, not online, but everything I've seen about the what's on the ground right now, it's not a good time to pull out. And would you look at that? Turns out, it wasn't the right time to pull out. Mind Eraser, I love reading. I'm reading Dune right now. Great book. Listen, when you're an adult, maybe you'll be smart enough to understand these concepts. The Taliban have seized power in Afghanistan 2 weeks before the US is set to complete its troop withdrawal after a costly 2-war decade. The insurgents stormed across the country, capturing all major cities in a matter of days as Afghan security forces, trained and equipped by the US and its allies, melted away. I feel like I don't even need to rest the fucking article. It's a goddamn joke, alright? Wasted 2 decades, billions of dollars, the lives of Australian and US soldiers, the lives of the Afghan people on both sides of the conflict, civilian or otherwise, and this is what we have to show for it. Wow. Thanks, US, and of course, because Australia is just loves the US, Australia went along as well. So, yeah. I mean, like, here's the thing. So, my position was, and still was, I would love an exit strategy. Unfortunately, this is a bit of a moot point now. It's really, we're speaking after the fact. I have seen some things about how the possibility of evacuation. So in light of what has happened, I have to say, like, okay, knowing the Australian government and the American government, there's never going to be the perfect exit strategy. Like, it's just never going to happen. So, if we're not going to come up with the perfect exit strategy, then we might as well just pull out. However, we could have done that a whole lot better, because if we're going to just pull out, like we have, there should have been some kind of allowance in place that protected the lives of the Afghani people and extracted, like, we could have, like, because all this conversation has been around, like, extracting, like, Afghani officials that have aided the US government. We could have evacuated Kabul. Why the fuck not? Just send as many planes as need to and evacuate as many people from Kabul and the surrounding area, just as many as you can. Just keep on have planes taking off the whole time, non-stop. Why the fuck not? Seriously, it's less than half-assed. This, like, quarter-assed response, where it's like, oh shit, we suddenly pulled out and now it's going to crap. We've got to go back in and evacuate people. Fuck me, if you're just going to pull out like that, then have some kind of allowances in place. Let me catch up with this. Too much cringe, though. I'm going to do something productive. Like sit in a cafe wearing a beret and an eye patch and very obviously reading Marx so that everyone knows I'm reading Marx. This fake left idiot just repeats things he heard from FoS. He wants to occupy foreign countries like the Australian colonizer he is. Probably hates Aboriginals too if you pressed him on it. I literally opened the stream with an acknowledgement of country. I'm literally majoring in Aboriginal studies for my university course. Get wrecked, ya dickhead! Also on Marx, how do you deal with his anti-Semitic ideal? Not a fan. Quite cringe. He's a fucking idiot about that. App update. No thanks. When you all start working for corporations, come back and see me. Look, boy meets Minnie. There is no adult tankies. I do not believe that there is a single adult tanky in the world. Seriously. Like, every tanky that I see just screams like a child. Taxpayer dollar. What do you mean? You probably think very differently about how capitalism works once you actually work in it to make the 1% richer. That's the thing, like I've worked for horrible corporations. I used to work for Serco. Serco is a company originally from the UK, I think. But in Australia, they have government contracts such as managing Australia's prisons, such as managing Australia's offshore detention centres. So that gives you an idea of the kind of company that they are. Now, I didn't work in those fields. When I worked for them, I worked on the Centrelink contract, which is like Australia's social security network. And let me tell you, they run that company like the kind of company that runs prisons. I can't understand how anyone who works for a company wouldn't be radicalized towards the left. Why was Australia in Vietnam? Because the US said, come with us. Like, all the way with LBJ. I think that was that Harold Holt? I think that was Australian Prime Minister Harold Holt who said, yeah, like, absolutely, Australians to go to Vietnam. We need to stop the spread of communism. We need to stop the domino effect. We're going all the way with LBJ. How about you move out of capitalism? Just move! Where am I going to move out of capitalism? Like, my first thought was the moon, but like, oh no, wait. The moon is still under the jurisdiction of capitalism. Just move! That'd be nice. Setting up a tech worker co-op isn't as easy as chatting in Twitch. I hope one day, now that I'm an experienced dev. That's awesome. When you say tech worker co-op, is in like a streaming service or like just like a platform like Google, but that's cooperatively owned? Why don't you set it up now? Oh yeah, set it up with my millions of dollars that I have on hand. What the fuck? This ridiculous notion. Oh, and speaking of, okay, all right. Before I move on to the next topic, I want to talk about another thing, which is kind of, I wish I should have talked about this while Manda Racer was here, because I would have loved to have heard what they've got to say on this topic. So, I know, again, I'm late on these topics because I haven't streamed in a week and a half. I talked about it at the start of the stream. I just had to take a break from my mental health. Not that streaming was a problem with that, but I just had a lot going on and just needed to relax and chill a bit. So, fuck me, this is lagging like fuck. What is going on? Oh, it's not that bad. What do you mean by means? Capital? Why not move to a communist country? They exist. Chips and gravy again. There has never been a communist nation on this planet. Sorry. Okay, so, anyway. So I'm late to the party. I'm like, this is old news at this point in internet time. But I want to talk about Hassan buying a house. So, in case you haven't heard, Azan Piker Hassan Abi bought a $3 million house, like 2.8 or something, house in... Was it in LA? I think it was in LA. I think it was... Yeah, it was in California somewhere. I think it was in South California. And the internet lost its shit. Now, in case you don't know, Hassan is a leftist streamer, the biggest leftist streamer online. One of just possibly the biggest political streamer anyway. Maybe Destiny is still bigger, but at least the biggest leftist streamer. So anyway, a lot of people, liberals, people on the left, were a little angry about Hassan owning a house because this is something that we tend to associate with the kind of people that we criticize. Now, here's where I stand. Personally, or first of all, like you should all be taking the libertarian perspective of who the fuck cares. It's nothing to do with me. But if we're going to talk about like the actual thing itself, talking about like, is it bad? Is it good? Is it a betrayal of his principles? Can we not do this? 2.8 million is pretty average for West Hollywood. Is it in West Hollywood? Exactly. Like, what the fuck? I've lived in LA, it's expensive, but the tech community is dank here. Plan to stay. That's awesome. Oh, that's sick, boy meets Mitty. Well, I'm glad that you're at least been able to work in the field that you enjoy. That's awesome. I'm glad to hear that. So when Cuba fails, it won't be a communist country failing? No, Cuba is, what would you even call Cuba nowadays? Like an authoritarian social democracy? I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Cuba, but I can tell you right now that Cuba was never communist. Anyway, so Hassan bought a house, $2.8 million in West Hollywood. Okay. A few things to start us off. Can socialists own houses? Yes, they can own a house. Hassan's not a landlord. He's a homeowner. He's not renting out this house to anyone. He lives in it. Like, this is literally like we're doing the meme of like socialism is when no house. Socialism is when no money. Which leads me to the next point. Should Hassan have that much wealth? Well, one of the criticisms I've seen online is that people have said, you should donate the majority of your money to charity. And while I'm not intimately familiar with Hassan's finances, I do know that he does donate a significant portion of his wealth to charity. I don't know if it's like the majority. Again, it's none of my business what he does with his money. All rich people should be encouraged to part with their wealth in some way, whether through tax or charity, preferably both. But Hassan, again, is certainly not opposed to donating to charity, and on this subject, supports increased taxes on the wealthy, including himself, whether that be by income or property tax. So let's talk about actually making the money itself. Is Hassan a hypocrite, being a socialist and making so much money? Well, no, because this is the thing where, like, I wish Mind Eraser was here because I wanted to hear his perspective. Rich does not equal bourgeois. This is like real basic Marxian shit, but a capitalist is somebody who owns a business and makes money through exploitation. Hassan does own his own business. He owns his name, but he's a self-made man. He has people that maybe work for him, editors and graphic designers and whatnot, but the majority of the labor is done by himself. Like, he's the central figure to his business and does the majority of the labor himself. There's no exploitation that occurs in the running of his channel because, again, he's the one doing the majority of the labor, of the output. Like, the channel, can run without graphic designers, it can run without editors, but it can't run without him. He's Hassan Arbi. He's the channel itself. Like, this is different to... I like the analogy of a McDonald's. Like, if a fry cook doesn't come in, then it's going to slow down the business operations a lot more than if the manager doesn't come in. Because if the fry cooks come in, they don't need a manager there. They know what to do. They know how to cook food and to take orders and hand people their food. But if a fry cook doesn't come in, well, the manager's a little bit fucked. Because it means that they're going to have to jump on a fryer. And, we love to see it. So, Hassan, he's not a capitalist. I mean, he owns a business, sure, but he's self-employed. So there's no exploitation going on. So, let's see. Let's review. He owns his own business. So no exploitation occurs, and the people that, do things like editing for him are duly compensated. Majority of labor is done by himself. Oh, and another thing I didn't even fucking mention. Like, the money that he earns is given to him voluntarily. He doesn't work for a wage. People pay him to compensate for his content because they enjoy it. It's completely voluntary. It's not like, like an Amazon Prime account where you pay and then consume content. You can watch Hassan's content for free. I've watched Hassan before, and I've never subscribed to his Twitch. I've never donated him money. It's completely voluntary. So there's even less exploitation. I feel like this really just boils down to people misunderstanding how the accruement of wealth and capital works, and just straight up jealousy. People just being like, why can he have a house and I can't? Well, hey, become a better Twitch streamer. Oh, and like on the note of like, oh, like I've seen like one other people say like, oh, what do you have to buy in Hollywood? Like there's houses a quarter of the price in other parts of the country. He already fucking lives in LA. Like, is he supposed to just up and like take all of his stuff? Because I'm pretty sure he moved his family into that house. Is his family supposed to just move to another part of the country? Just for optics? Just like, oh, it would look bad if I bought a house in LA, so I better buy one in another part of the country. Like, fuck you! Fuck you even tell him that he has to move. So yeah, fake socialist for owning a house and having money. Socialism is when no money. iPhone Vivesuela, 100 billion dead. Chips and gravy again. Please don't ask people where they live, alright? That's a little bit creepy. Hassan is a con man, like that white guy who claimed he was black. You mean Rachel Dolezal? She was a woman. And I bet you won't be able to tell me how Hassan is a con man. Self-employment equals CEO exploiting workers and profiting off cutting their wages. True, don't you know that socialism is when you make money? Rich does not equal bourgeois. Thank you, I said that. Rich in Marxism... No, I'm afraid not. Rich in Nazism equals Jew, but not in Marxism. Jesus Christ. That's a... Mate, like... I feel like that's a little bit of a self-report. Calm down there. Hassan is dependent on the... hist? What's a hist? Do you mean host? I agree. That's enough. He works for profit, like a pole dancer. He works for profit. What? You claim to be a socialist, and yet you have not left this capitalist country and founded your own socialist state. Curious. Fuck me. I don't care about your views, and I know I can't change yours, but I got some entertainment, and someone made a slight profit. What? Are you talking about me or Hassan? I'm lost, alright? Listen, if you're all enjoying the stream, you all should like and subscribe. Jump over to YouTube and you can subscribe to me there. I do prepared content. I'm on holidays starting on Monday, so I'm going to be working on a prepared video from now on. I do have an assignment that's due next week, but I'll work around that, okay? I want to try and get that video shot next week. It's going to be fun. Okay. Whew. Hassan is a whore. Okay, look, listen, mate. We might need to time you out because I feel like we're entertaining your kinks here. Your username rhymes with Louis Vuitton. Fake socialist. Oh fuck. Oh shit. Calling me out. All right. Fake socialist. I mean, like. Wait. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Fake socialist. Okay. Oh dear. Alright. Let's talk about something else, which I saw on Twitter a little bit, about a week ago, which I thought was pretty fun. It is a nice wallet, thanks. Hassan is like OnlyFans. Yes, in that they're both self-employed who use a larger platform to host. Anyway, this is a great thread, which is from, I believe it's an Australian YouTuber who's pretty small, Harker the Storyteller, who did a great thread on TERFs and how their ideology is similar to that of fascists. Now, it was very interesting, so I wanted to go through it. So, let's go through the pyramid first before we move on to the thread itself. So this is a pyramid on the the extremism of an ideology. So at the bottom we have biased attitudes, so stereotyping, insensitive remarks, fear of difference, non-inclusive language, microaggressions, justifying biases on seeking out like-minded people, accepting negative or misinformation, screening out positive information. little bit cringe. More than a little bit. The next level up. Acts of bias. Bullying, ridicule, name-calling, slurs, epithets, social avoidance, dehumanization, biased, belittling jokes. The third level, which Harker is saying is currently where TERFs are at, is discrimination, economic discrimination, political discrimination, educational discrimination, employment discrimination, housing discrimination, and segregation, criminal justice disparities. Now, Harker is making it clear that this is where the gender-critical movement is at right now. Of course, as we see on the next level up, bias-motivated violence. Absolutely, trans people do experience bias-motivated violence. But they're talking moreover the TERF movement itself. So bias-motivated violence, murder, rape, assault, arson, terrorism, vandalism, desecration, and threats. Absolutely, trans people have experienced that. Even like the next one above, genocide. Trans people have experienced genocide as well. The act or intent to deliberately and systemically annihilate an entire people. But overall, the gender-critical movement is currently here at discrimination for now. Clearly doesn't understand fascism because it would be top-down. What? Mate, it's just a model, alright? Chill the fuck out. This sounds like you. What sounds like me? I mean, I do think TERFs are fascists, so, huh? Who am I being discriminatory towards? Anyway, let's go through the thread. It's a good read. We should be frank and abundantly clear. A set of TERFs, under Milan Marion's guidance and leadership, went to Doctor's Bar specifically to try and escalate violence inherent to their hate movement. They have attempted to escalate from the ongoing discrimination to violence. If you don't know, there was a bar in, I don't know if it was either England or Scotland. Basically, a bunch of TERFs came in and were dropping flyers in the bathrooms about TERF shit, making the staff really uncomfortable. The staff asked the manager to ask them to leave. The manager themselves, no, not the manager, the owner of the establishment is trans themselves, and eventually they were, to begin with, they were like, they underestimated like how obnoxious these people were being. However, when it escalated, they asked them to leave, and it's blown up a bit. Chips and Gravy, you need to be way more specific than that. They, like most fascist movements, try to hide their overt bigotry behind a veil of defending an imagined community. An imagined community is very important to fascist ideology, with appeals to tradition and indeed a cult thereof. They suggest invisible conspiracies and engage in campaigns of anti-intellectualism. When I term them fash, I'm not being hyperbolic. There are startling overlaps between so-called gender-critical beliefs and the anti-Semitism inherent to Naziology. Both literally, Helen Joyce and... who's this person? Don't remember. Go away. Have expressed... Julie Bindel. Feminist campaigner, yeah, right, whatever. Have expressed such in their work, and metaphorically, where the way TERFs discuss trans, and indeed other queer people, is remarkably similar to how, for example, Richard Spencer talks about Jewish people. I mean, you hear from TERFs about how TRA activists have infiltrated academia, infiltrated our government. It's very similar to JQ stuff. Listen, Chips and Gravy again, you can... hey, come on one time and we can argue and Capistan, alright? I'm happy to argue about how fascism is incompatible with socialism, alright? Join the Discord through the link down below, and hey, I'm happy to talk about it with you sometime. But thanks for stopping by. But more importantly, the fascistic movement of the trans-exclusionary is predicated on the genocide of transgender people that was Janice Raymond has stated, morally mandating us out of existence, both through limiting education around trans people, advocating a return to Section 28 in the UK, and through limiting medical access. This, alongside the false claim of sex-based rights or spaces, leads the movement towards genocidal aims. Now, so far, I have not made a value judgment. I've laid out the facts as they stand. There's only a few facts, but they are well sourced. You can follow them up if you so desire. It's important that you note that these statements are not condemnation, just the expressed beliefs, because now the condemnation starts. Transphobic policies are morally bankrupt, and the advocates of them are at absolute best horrendously misled through following bigoted opinions. Most advocates of transphobia are not misled, and are instead openly hateful in word and deed. If you look at any stuff from TERFs, they're so quick. Their language changes so quickly towards discrimination just against the LGBT community as a whole. It's not just trans people. There is no rhyme nor reason for their bigotry. There is no considered argument. They advocate for the genocide of people, and in doing so, are frankly evil. Some form ringleaders, some are followers. But just following orders lost its appeal when the Nazis attacked us last time. Of particular note are the actions of bigots like J.K. Rowling, Blanchard, Dr. Blanchard, whoever, and M. Forstater, who have operated at best with the kindest possible understanding of their behaviour as useful idiots to the overwhelmingly misogynistic and fascistic movement against trans people. Like, I think people like J.K. Rowling are well past the point of useful idiots. There's no coincidence that the reactionary backlash to transgender people emerged following the passage of gay marriage and abortion rights in a flurry prior to the beginning of the most reactionary period in recent memory. The bigots moved on, and moved their money with them. So when the absolute scum, like Alliance LGB, come to people like me, and claim they're defending the rights of gay, lesbian, and bisexual people, you can tell them they are not. None of their actions further gay rights. Instead, they drive a wedge to try and fragment our community. Without solidarity, the gains made by queer people, I'm using queer fuck you, will be taken away, they'll return to the fold, and the harms will be exponential in our community. TERFs, I'm asking you as kindly as I can, stand the hell down. Your movement is an evil one. Allies, do me a favour and spread this around. I'm sick of TERFs dominating the discourse, and it's past time they didn't. Trans people, you're amazing, and I love you. Thank you for being who you are and living your goddamn truth in defiance of impossible odds. Hashtag trans rights and hashtag trans thriving. An important clarification available to me earlier, this critically does not change the thesis of the overall argument. These reactions still operated under Millar's leadership and still aim to escalate violence. That said, they don't appear to have selected doctors, and that's it. I forgot to give you a subscribe in the YouTube pursuit.
And you deserve to be punished.
That was laggy, what the hell? Anyway. The follower, like the sound that plays when you follow is Philosophy Tube telling you that the point is you've been bad and you deserve to be punished. But thank you for the follow. People be like, but TERFs have free speech rights. Doesn't mean anyone has to agree with them. I mean, I am... Okay, let me preface this by saying I am a free speech absolutist. And I think that private citizens should have the right to say what they want. However, I don't think discrimination should be... Like, discrimination, not it should. It cannot be codified into law. Trans people must be a protected minority, a protected class. So I really like the point that Hark is making. The actions of TERFs are very similar to any kind of grassroots-based hate movement. It has this veneer of intellectualism, even though it's inherently anti-intellectual. So right now, while we might be here... I mean, look, I don't want to sound alarmist, but, you know, who knows how long until we get to here. So, a great thread. I will post the link in the chat. Yeah, great thread. I thought it was very insightful into TERF ideology. I saw this thread the same week, as I've just said, that I was doing fascism for politics class. So yeah. I agree the law needs to be grant the same rights to trans people as any other human being. Absolutely. Like, if you're using your free... Like, look. Like, if you're using your free speech to advocate for stripping rights away from people, that's not that's not something that should be allowed under the law. Like, just because you have free speech doesn't mean that you have the right to advocate for rights being taken away from people. That's where, like, I draw the line. If someone wants to stand on a street corner with a sign that says that, drop the T from LGBT, like, that's fine. Like, I don't like it. And I would not complain if private citizens took it upon themselves to correct that kind of behavior. However, I would oppose using your free speech, for instance, to stand up in Parliament or Congress and advocate for stripping the rights from trans people. That's different. You're using your right to strip the rights from another. And that's where I draw the line. Anyway, that is about all we had today. I really, really, really need to pee, so I think I might leave it there. I don't have anything else to say. But hey, thank you all so much. Who should... Let me see. Thanks, Boy Meets Mini. It was great to have you in. Who's live right now? Who can we raid? Let's see. Who can we raid? I think Lumi Roo is live. We're going to raid Lumi Roo. I love... Oh my god, Lumi is like the most wholesome streamer, okay? If you haven't watched Lumi Roo's stream before, get on it. I'm going to start the raid. Make sure you get in and make sure to tell Lumi where you came from, alright? Hey, look at that! A Lumi follower. I love Lumi, alright? Jump in and make sure you tell Lumi where you came from. Thank you all very much for watching, alright? I'm Louis Vuitton. Make sure you join your union. I will see you all next time.